All right, folks, today, Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions will go before a Senate committee where he will potentially be approved by that committee. Various groups are protesting his nomination to be the next Attorney General. They are doing all they can to stop it. Several Democratic senators have already said they're going to vote against Senator Sessions to be the next Attorney General, but barring any Republicans who are going to agree with him, he's likely going to move through. Before I go to my guest, folks, I want to play this for you. This is stunning, okay? So when Sally Yates, who was fired yesterday by President Donald Trump as acting Attorney General, she, of course, was nominated to the position by President Barack Obama. When Sally Yates was going before her Senate confirmation hearings, one of the people who questioned her was Senator Jeff Sessions. But listen to the question he asked Sally Yates, and wow, doesn't history repeat itself?
You have to watch out because people will be asking you to do things you just need to say no about. Do you think the Attorney General has a responsibility to say no to the President if he asks for something that's improper? A lot of people have defended the Lynch nomination, for example, by saying, well, he appoints somebody who's going to execute his views. What's wrong with that? But if the views the president wants to execute are unlawful, should the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General say no?
Senator, I believe that the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General has an obligation to follow the law and the Constitution and to give their independent legal advice to the president.
All right, folks, I want to talk about this with our panel. Let me go back to, I want to start with Tiffany Lofton. Tiffany, you talked about Sessions before. Listening to that is stunning. To hear Jeff Sessions ask Sally Yates about
doing her job,
in order for the President of the United States. Ooh, the timing is perfect.
I'm so glad. This is why you're an awesome reporter, Roland, because you can find stuff like this on so naturally the day of the appointment that's going to happen in the vote. And coincidentally, last night, the Attorney General getting fired. I think this is incredible. Let's talk about the contradictions here, because when you have the Attorney General who just got fired last night, and I don't know what time President Donald Trump has been working. I woke up and this has been the whole entire blow up from last night. He needs to stop doing that. He needs to work during work hours. We need to talk about also how important it is that this vote is about to come up, that the hearings that we've been seeing around Sessions have been protested, and that folks have been rallying and calling their Congress members, like I mentioned, to denounce and to not vote for Sessions. And so coincidentally, like I said, you find and have this video that has him asking this question. It's hypocritical, and I think that Sally Yates was doing what she was supposed to do. She was standing up, she was doing her job. She responded and said, she didn't say, I don't like Donald Trump and I'm not going to do this. In her statement, she said, I'm not convinced that this is going to help or keep security for this country. And until I am convinced and someone gives me evidence for that, then I can go ahead and implement what President Donald Trump has said he wanted to do in his executive order. But that is her job. That's what she's supposed to do. So Donald Trump fired her for doing her job.
I want to pull up a couple of guests here, Reverend Jennifer Butler, as well as Tamika Mallory, New York Justice League. I want to go to you first, Tamika. Look, activists are saying Jeff Sessions has no business being the next Attorney General, and the reality is this here. I don't think for a second, when you find out that Stephen Miller, a former aide to Jeff Sessions, is the one with Steve Bannon in the White House who is driving a lot of these crazy policies, I think it's kind of clear where Sessions stands.
It's absolutely clear, Roland. I mean, we're not confused. And I think that one of the White House strategy has been to just sort of throw a bunch of stuff at people, and there's so much happening at once that folks can't really focus and don't know how all these things tie together. Jeff Sessions is very much so linked to the anti-Muslim rhetoric and this Muslim ban. If we, really check his record, you will find that even the 9/11 registry, he was behind it. And as you said, Stephen Miller has already left Jeff Sessions' Senate office and is currently working in the White House right now. They are preparing for Jeff Sessions to join them there. so that they can continue to do, some of this horrible stuff that they have been doing and sort of, as you said, driving this anti-Muslim behavior. But I think it's important for us, particularly being on TV One this morning, us being black folks in America, to talk about his position also as a racist and criminal justice reform, and how we've been pushing to ensure that there's police accountability, to ensure that criminal justice reform is on top of mind in this country. And Jeff Sessions we know he will vehemently oppose those things. And so this is a very dangerous man who can be tied and linked to several things that is bad for America, bad for people of color. And again, we cannot take our eyes off the call for justice that people across this country have been fighting for well before this Muslim ban situation happened.
Reverend Jennifer Butler, founding executive director of Faith in Public Life. Clearly, folks, clergy across the country have been asserting their viewpoint. What's going to happen today? How will you and others impact this nomination? Will folks be in the hearing room? Will you have people lining the halls of Congress? What's the plan?
We will. Faith leaders across this country have been leading the charge to stop Jeff Sessions. We are morally appalled that this man has been appointed to a cabinet position. He is the intellectual godfather of this executive order, and churches across this country are outraged that we would impose a Muslim ban, that we would bar refugees who are hurting, that we would prevent elderly couples and hurting children from entering this country who would be sent back to their deaths in places like Syria. We have to understand that churches in this country actually are the majority of people settling refugees in this country. I just heard over the weekend from a mother who has led the charge in her church to settle a Syrian family in her church. She has never before in her life been to a protest, but she contacted me this weekend so that she could find a way to show up and rally for the refugees at the airports and for the White House. She again, has never before protested in her life, but she took her child to Dulles Airport to support the refugees at the airport. So Donald Trump is going to have churches and synagogues across this country protesting and leading resistance against what he is doing. And Jeff Sessions, again, he is the architect of all of this. So we will be praying in the hallways. We will be watching. We have called on our members of Congress. We have been in the states meeting with our senators. Our senators today need to show moral courage. Our democracy is at stake. Religious freedom is at stake. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Right. So we need to start today to show moral courage.
Davis?
Exactly right. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. And what's really disturbing is that this is happening right in the wake of this ridiculous firing of the acting attorney general. So we need no other reminder of how critical this specific nominee is. This president, in essence, is definitely saying that he wants to stack the entire cabinet with yes men and women. He wants to run this country as if he is a dictator. This is someone we've already seen, for example, that just in implementing the executive order, we have seen in some airports, and I believe Dulles was one of them, where the police have not, they've been blocking lawyers from being able to connect with people who are being detained. They have been openly defying the federal judge that specifically ruled that there needed to be a halt to the enforcement of this. And if this president gets in place an attorney general that is interested in pushing this, there is going to be no check on those powers when they are in fact thwarted in this way. It is absolutely dangerous. If anything, this is the moment for everyone to take a step back and say, and I'm hoping that the Democrats will do whatever they can to at least slow down the process and stand up and say, we need to take another look at this because the stakes have now just risen to an astronomical level.
Donald, I don't believe for a second that Republicans are going to block the nomination of Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, that more than likely he will be confirmed. But what I would say, like to say that this goes to show what happens when people do not get out to vote. I think that we need more moderate Republicans in the legislature to be able to ward off these things. We are less than 30 days into the administration, and we've already got a lot of chaos and confusion. So I think that if this bodes for what the rest of these 4 years are going to look like, I don't know what we're going to get accomplished. But I think that we need to have more moderation in the Congress.
Yeah.
Tamika, I think it's also important for folks, look, protesting, trying to block the nomination is critically important. Assuming, again, that Republicans are not going to oppose Jeff Sessions, people have to be prepared for mobilizing and organizing continuously over the next 4 years on issues that he is not going to be ruling on. This can't sort of be a one moment in time.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, this is an important piece coming out of the Women's March on Washington, having women all over this nation to gather, particularly over 1 million women coming out into Washington, D.C. Our campaign has been, yesterday we had people go to their local senators' offices all over the country to say, you know, not only should the Judiciary Committee members vote no, but if you are not on the committee, you need to be calling committee members yourself as a local senator saying you must stop this, block this from happening, block this confirmation.
Right.
And what we've been basically saying is, if you decide that you're going to vote yes on Sessions, we will have to vote no on you. And that has to be the message, that we have to organize people in these particular cities, in these states, to ensure that they are coming out to vote and that we put these people out of office who do not follow the will of the people.
Reverend Butler, 30 seconds. Final comment.
Yes, I agree with Tamika. Last week we had 100 clergy show up in Senator Portman's office, and he started to really say that he was going to reconsider his position. We have to be out in states. We have to be organized, and we will be holding senators accountable on their position. We will be watching very closely.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.